If you're a senior traveler, airlines are counting on you not knowing your rights. And that needs to change today. Did you know that passengers over 60 are twice as likely to experience denied boarding, hidden fees, and discriminatory treatment at airports compared to younger travelers? Yet fewer than 15% of seniors are aware of the legal protections they're entitled to when they fly. That's not just unfortunate, it's costly. We're talking about hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars left on the table, uncomfortable flights that could have been avoided, and rights that go completely unclaimed simply because nobody told you they existed. Welcome to Jet Truth. I'm here to make sure that the next time you step into an airport, you're not just another passenger. You're an informed traveler who knows exactly what you're entitled to. In this video, we're uncovering 10 hidden travel rights that senior travelers should absolutely know before flying. These aren't optional perks. These are legal protections, airline policies, and accessibility rights that can save you money, reduce stress, and make your entire journey safer and more comfortable. If you're a senior traveler, a caregiver, or someone who flies with older family members, this video is going to change the way you book, board, and navigate air travel. So hit that like button, subscribe to Jet Truth, and ring the notification bell, because by the end of this video, you'll be armed with information most airlines hope you never find out. Let's get into it. Number 10. You can request early boarding without paying extra. Let's start with one of the most overlooked rights, early boarding. Most airlines offer priority boarding for passengers who need extra time or assistance, and guess what? You don't have to pay a dime for it. Whether you're dealing with mobility issues, traveling with a cane, walker, or wheelchair, or you simply need a little more time to settle in, you are legally entitled to request pre-boarding assistance. This isn't a luxury upgrade. It's an accessibility service protected under the Air Carrier Access Act in the United States and similar regulations worldwide. Here's the catch. You actually have to ask for it. Airlines won't automatically offer this unless you speak up at the gate. And yes, some gate agents might act like they're doing you a personal favor. But let's be clear, this is your right, not their generosity. Now, here's where it gets even better. You don't need a doctor's note. You don't need to prove anything. If you need extra time to board, you simply inform the gate agent before boarding begins. They're required to accommodate you. But here's the problem. Many seniors don't know this, so they either pay for priority boarding they didn't need to, or they struggle through the boarding process in a stressful rush. Don't be that person. The next time you fly, walk up to the gate agent 10 minutes before boarding starts and calmly say, "I'd like to request early boarding assistance." That's it. No drama, no negotiation. Your comfort and safety are non-negotiable. And if they give you pushback, politely ask them to document the denial. Watch how fast that changes their tune. Number 9. You're entitled to a free wheelchair at the airport. Here's something that shocks a lot of people. If you need a wheelchair to get through the airport, the airline must provide one for you at no charge. Not maybe. Not if they feel like it. They must. This falls under the Air Carrier Access Act, which requires airlines to provide wheelchair assistance from the check-in counter to the gate, from the gate to your seat, and back again when you land. And this applies even if you didn't pre-book the service. Now, let's talk about the reality. Airport wheelchair services are notoriously understaffed. You might request a wheelchair and then wait 20, 30, even 45 minutes for someone to show up. It's frustrating, it's inconsiderate, and yes, it happens more often than it should. But here's what you need to know. If you pre-request a wheelchair when you book your flight, or at least 48 hours in advance, the airline is legally required to have it ready for you. Not try to have it ready, required. And if they fail to provide it in a reasonable time, you're entitled to file a formal complaint with the Department of Transportation, and depending on the severity and frequency, You may even be eligible for compensation. Here's a pro tip. Always request the wheelchair service online or via phone when booking, then reconfirm it 24 hours before your flight. And when you check in at the airport, mention it again. Yes, it feels repetitive, but this is your mobility and independence we're talking about. You have every right to ensure the service is actually provided. And one more thing. If you need a wheelchair but you're worried about being a burden or slowing people down, stop right there. You paid for your ticket just like everyone else. You're entitled to move through that airport safely and comfortably. Period. Number 8. Airlines must allow you to bring medical equipment for free. If you rely on medical devices, CPAP machines, oxygen concentrators, nebulizers, insulin pumps, portable dialysis equipment, you are legally allowed to bring them on board in addition to your carry-on and personal item allowance, and the airline cannot charge you extra for it. This is protected under the Air Carrier Access Act and International Accessibility Regulations. Your medical equipment does not count toward your baggage limit. Let me repeat that. It does not count. It's considered essential medical assistance, and airlines are required to accommodate it. But here's where things get messy. Many gate agents either don't know this rule or conveniently forget it when you show up with extra bags. I've heard countless stories of seniors being told at the gate, "You'll have to check that," or "You need to pay for an extra bag." That's not just wrong, it's illegal. So here's what you do. When you book your flight, notify the airline in advance that you'll be traveling with medical equipment. Describe what it is, whether it's battery-powered, and confirm that it's approved for in-cabin use. Print or screenshot the airline's own policy on medical devices and bring it with you to the airport. Yes, actually print it. Because if someone at the gate tries to charge you or force you to check your equipment, you'll have their own rules in writing to back you up. And if you're traveling with something that requires power, like a CPAP machine, you're also entitled to request an accessible seat near a power outlet if one is available. Not all airlines advertise this, but it's part of their obligation to accommodate passengers with medical needs. One last thing, if your medical device is battery operated, make sure the batteries comply with TSA and airline regulations. Lithium-ion batteries, for example, have specific size and watt-hour limits. Check those before you fly so you're not caught off guard at security. Bottom line, your health and medical needs are not up for negotiation. Know your rights, document everything, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Number 7. You can request special meals without extra fees. If you have dietary restrictions, whether for medical, religious, or personal reasons, most major airlines will provide you with a special meal at no additional cost. But here's the thing. You have to request it in advance, and you have to know what's actually available. Airlines typically offer options like diabetic-friendly meals, low-sodium meals, gluten-free meals, kosher meals, and vegetarian or vegan options. And yes, these are real meals, not just sad salads or crackers. They're specifically prepared to meet dietary guidelines and are often higher quality than standard in-flight meals. Now, here's the catch. You usually need to request your special meal at least 24 to 48 hours before your flight. Some airlines allow you to do it when you book, others require you to call their customer service line. Either way, don't wait until you're at the gate. It'll be too late. And if you have a serious medical condition like diabetes or heart disease, a proper meal during a long flight isn't just a nice to have, it's essential. Low blood sugar at 35,000 feet is not a situation you want to deal with, so take this seriously. Here's a pro tip. After you request your special meal, call the airline 24 hours before your flight and confirm that it's been logged into the system. Airlines are notorious for forgetting special meal requests, and the last thing you want is to be stuck on an 8-hour flight with nothing to eat. And if you board the plane and they tell you they don't have your meal, Don't just accept it. Politely but firmly ask them to check again, and if it's truly not there, request a meal voucher or compensation. You followed the rules. They didn't. That's on them, not you. Flying with dietary needs doesn't have to be stressful. You just have to know how to work the system. Number 6. Seniors can keep shoes on during TSA screening. Let's talk about airport security. If you're 75 or older, TSA has a specific policy that allows you to keep your shoes on during screening. Yes, really. This is part of TSA pre-check protocols extended to seniors, and it's designed to reduce physical strain and speed up the process. Now, will every TSA agent automatically tell you this? Absolutely not. In fact, many seniors still take their shoes off because they assume it's required for everyone. But if you're 75 plus, you can keep them on unless the scanner flags something unusual or you're selected for additional screening. Here's what you need to know. Even if you're under 75, if you have mobility issues, joint pain, or balance problems, you can request to keep your shoes on and explain your situation to the TSA officer. They may allow it or offer an alternative screening method, like a pat-down. Either way, you have options. And while we're on the topic, TSA is also required to accommodate seniors who need to sit down during the screening process. If standing for an extended period is difficult, you can ask for a chair. If you're traveling with a cane, walker, or any mobility aid, TSA must inspect it, but will return it to you as quickly as possible. Here's the frustrating part. Not all TSA agents are trained equally. Some will be respectful and accommodating. Others might act like you're holding up the line. If you encounter an agent who's rude or dismissive, stay calm, ask for a supervisor, and know that you have every right to request respectful treatment. One more thing. TSA Cares is a helpline, 855-787-TOTO27, specifically designed to assist travelers with disabilities and medical conditions. You can call them 72 hours before your flight to arrange for extra assistance at security. It's free, it's official, and it works. Don't let airport security intimidate you. You have rights, and you deserve to move through that checkpoint with dignity. Number 5. You're entitled to compensation for delays and cancellations. Flight delays and cancellations are frustrating for everyone, but here's what most people don't realize. Depending on where you're flying and what caused the delay, you may be entitled to significant compensation. And yes, this applies to seniors just as much as anyone else. In the European Union, Regulation 261/2004 is one of the strongest passenger protection laws in the world. If your flight is delayed by more than 3 hours or cancelled and the airline is at fault, you could be entitled to compensation ranging from $250 to $600, depending on the distance of your flight. That's not a voucher. That's cold, hard cash. Even in the United States, where federal laws are weaker, airlines are still required to provide certain accommodations if a delay or cancellation is within their control. This includes meal vouchers, hotel accommodations for overnight delays, and rebooking on the next available flight at no extra charge. But here's the problem. Airlines will not volunteer this information. In fact, they'll do everything possible to avoid mentioning it. They'll hand you a vague apology, a gate change, and hope you just go away quietly. So here's what you do. If your flight is delayed or cancelled, immediately ask the gate agent, "Is this delay within the airline's control?" If it's due to weather, that's usually exempt. But if it's due to mechanical issues, staffing shortages, or overbooking, you have rights. Document everything. Take photos of the departure board, save your boarding pass, and keep all receipts for meals or accommodations you had to pay for. Then file a formal complaint with the airline within a few days. If they refuse to compensate you, escalate it to the Department of Transportation or the relevant authority in your country. And if you're flying internationally and the airline tries to brush you off, mention Regulation 261/2004 by name. Suddenly, they'll take you a lot more seriously. Delays happen, but that doesn't mean you should eat the cost. Number 4. Airlines must provide accessible seating if requested. If you have mobility challenges, need extra legroom for medical reasons, or require a seat with an accessible armrest, airlines are required to provide accessible seating when requested in advance. This is not optional. It's mandated by the Air Carrier Access Act. Now, let's define what accessible seating actually means. This includes bulkhead seats, the seats right behind a dividing wall with extra legroom, aisle seats for easier access, and seats where the armrest lifts up so passengers using wheelchairs can transfer more easily. The catch? You have to request it when you book, or at least 48 hours before your flight. And even then, it's not guaranteed unless you meet specific criteria, like using a wheelchair or having a documented medical condition. Here's the frustrating reality. Airlines often assign these seats to passengers willing to pay extra for premium economy or extra legroom upgrades. So even though accessible seating is supposed to be protected, it's not uncommon for seniors to show up at the gate and find that the seat they requested has been reassigned. If this happens to you, speak up immediately. Ask the gate agent to review your reservation and request that they reassign you to an accessible seat. If they claim none are available, ask for documentation of that claim and request compensation or a seat upgrade on your next flight. And if you're flying with a companion who assists you, airlines are required to seat you together if you request it in advance. They're also not allowed to charge you extra for that accommodation. Know your rights, request your seat early, and don't settle for less. You're not asking for special treatment, you're asking for equal access. And that's exactly what the law guarantees. Number 3. You can file complaints, and they actually matter. Let's talk about something that far too many travelers overlook: your right to file a formal complaint. And not just a complaint, one that actually gets logged, reviewed, and can lead to real consequences for the airline. In the United States, the Department of Transportation, DOT, tracks every complaint filed against airlines. They publish reports, investigate patterns of discrimination or negligence, and hold airlines accountable when violations occur. And if enough people complain about the same issue, it can trigger policy changes and enforcement actions. But here's the thing: complaints only matter if they're filed correctly. Posting on social media or venting to a customer service agent on the phone doesn't count. You need to file a formal complaint with the DOT or the relevant aviation authority in your country. Here's how you do it. Go to the DOT's Aviation Consumer Protection website and fill out the official complaint form. Describe exactly what happened. Include flight numbers, dates, names of airline staff if possible, and attach any supporting documents, boarding passes, receipts, photos, emails. And yes, this works. Airlines are required to respond to DOT complaints within a certain time frame, and repeated complaints about the same issue can result in fines, investigations, and public scrutiny. If you experience discrimination, denied assistance, lost or damaged mobility equipment, or were wrongly charged for something you were entitled to, file that complaint. Don't just let it go because you think nothing will happen. Your voice matters, and every complaint builds a record that protects future travelers. And here's a bonus: some complaints result in compensation even when the airline initially refused. The DOT can pressure airlines to issue refunds, vouchers, or goodwill gestures to resolve complaints and avoid further escalation. So don't stay silent. If an airline violated your rights, take 15 minutes to file a complaint. You're not just standing up for yourself, you're standing up for every senior traveler who comes after you. Number 2. You're protected against age discrimination. Let's get real for a second. Age discrimination in air travel is real. It's subtle, and it happens more often than anyone wants to admit. And the worst part? Most seniors don't even realize it's illegal. Under the Age Discrimination Act and related civil rights protections, airlines, airport staff, and TSA agents are prohibited from treating passengers differently based solely on age. That means they cannot refuse to seat you in an exit row just because you're over a certain age without assessing your actual ability. They cannot assume you need a wheelchair without asking. And they absolutely cannot speak to you in a condescending or dismissive tone simply because you're older. But it happens. Seniors are routinely talked over, ignored, or treated like they're confused when they ask perfectly reasonable questions. Gate agents sometimes assume older passengers don't understand technology or boarding procedures, even when that's not the case. If you experience this kind of treatment, here's what you need to know. You have the right to request respectful service. If a staff member is being dismissive, rude, or patronizing, you can calmly but firmly say, "I'd like to speak with a supervisor." And if the behavior continues, document it and file a formal complaint. You also have the right to refuse unwanted assistance. If someone tries to push you in a wheelchair when you didn't ask for one, or insists on escorting you when you're perfectly capable of walking to your gate, you can say no. Independence is a right, not a privilege. And here's something important. If you're denied boarding, refused a service, or subjected to discriminatory treatment, and you believe it was due to your age, you can file a complaint with the DOT and, in some cases, pursue legal action under civil rights laws. Age is not a disability. Experience is not a weakness. And being a senior traveler does not make you less deserving of respect, dignity, and fair treatment. Remember that the next time someone tries to tell you otherwise. Number 1. You can get refunds, not just vouchers. Here's the big one. And it's something airlines desperately hope you never find out. If your flight is canceled or significantly delayed by the airline, you are legally entitled to a full refund. Not a voucher, not a credit, but actual money back to your original form of payment. Let's be clear about what significantly delayed means. In the US, the DOT defines it as a delay of 3 hours or more for domestic flights, or 6 hours or more for international flights. If your flight meets that threshold, and the delay was the airline's fault, you can demand a refund instead of rebooking. But here's what airlines do. They'll immediately offer you a voucher or a rebooking, hoping you'll just take it and move on. And most people do. Why? Because they don't realize they have another option. If you want a refund, you need to explicitly ask for it. And I mean explicitly. Don't just say, "I'm unhappy." Say, "I am requesting a full refund to my original form of payment due to this cancellation." Use those exact words. Airlines are trained to dodge vague complaints, but clear, specific language backed by DOT regulations is much harder to ignore. And if they refuse or give you the runaround, escalate immediately. Ask for a supervisor, reference DOT refund rules, and if necessary, file a formal complaint with the Department of Transportation and your credit card company. Now, let's talk about a specific scenario. Seniors face more often than others: medical emergencies. If you or a traveling companion experiences a serious medical issue that prevents you from flying, most airlines will allow you to cancel and either rebook or request a refund, especially if you provide a doctor's note. Some airlines are more flexible than others, but it's worth asking. And here's a lesser-known tip. If you purchase travel insurance, many policies cover cancellations due to illness, injury, or family emergencies. But you need to file the claim properly, with all supporting documentation, and you need to do it within the policy's specified time window. Bottom line, refunds are your right when the airline is at fault. Don't settle for vouchers you may never use. Get your money back and spend it on an airline that actually respects your time. And there you have it. 10 hidden travel rights every senior traveler should know before flying. From early boarding and wheelchair assistance to refunds, accessible seating, and protection against discrimination. These aren't perks, they're legal protections, and they exist to make sure that your age, mobility, or medical needs never stop you from traveling safely, comfortably, and with dignity. But here's the truth. Airlines won't advertise these rights. Gate agents won't remind you. And if you don't speak up, your rights will be ignored. So the next time you book a flight, print this list, save this video, share it with your family, and most importantly, use it. Traveling as a senior doesn't mean settling for less. It means knowing what you're entitled to and refusing to accept anything else. So, which of these rights surprised you the most? Have you ever experienced a situation where knowing one of these would have changed your entire trip? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video helped you, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to Jet Truth, and share this with a senior traveler in your life. Because the more people know their rights, the harder it is for airlines to ignore them. Safe travels, and remember, you've earned the right to fly with confidence. Now, go claim it.